Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day. Enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to hang out a few. But I want to get some people on here, so hopefully there's enough of you out there on this lazy Sunday afternoon, evening, wherever you're at. Again, I hope everybody's enjoying a good day, living life, loving life. A little bit chilly and dreary around here. We had some rain this morning and quite different than yesterday. Yesterday it was nice and I'll say hot, but a mild hot. Wasn't a whole lot of wind and it wasn't unbearable or uncomfortable even. But today it's kind of chilly, so I got an overshirt on and everything. But we're going to talk today about the PMA I recently constructed. And I want to explain to people how it works, because it's all a matter of process. And I think a lot of people think that they can handle the financial affairs from the inside out through these minimal contractors, these public servants and stuff, which that's truly what they are, is they're contractors. And they're also trustees. In some particular situations, they're even grantees. And this is what I refer to in regards to the foreign trade zones. The United States operates the foreign trade zones for the 50 states. And they have a contract under the Title 48 of the Code of Federal Regulations 52.212-5, wherein it speaks about imports and exports in regards to acquisitions. And it is known as the Federal Acquisitions Regulations. In that part that I mentioned, it says specifically contract, terms, and conditions required to implement statutes or executive orders hyphen commercial items. So that means when these states are enforcing these statutes, they've actually got a contract through a foreign trade zone operation. The federal government has granted them the opportunity to operate as a transmitting utility in foreign trades, as being able to operate their own foreign trade zone. Underneath the state, each county, the state operates as a grantee and grants the counties that same opportunity to operate as a transmitting utility, again, as their own little independent foreign trade zones. Again, within each of those counties, the counties are grantees to the municipalities to operate as transmitting utilities for the residents, giving up federal addresses for zoning improvement plans for the foreign trade zones. So when we're dealing with all these little itty-bitty contractors, if you really want to step up and show your contract abilities, quit messing with them. In my opinion, you need to quit messing with them and establish your own foundation so you can go with your own foundation to the head contractor. And realize that it is in fact a contract in trust. And so we have to make agreements. These contracts are arbitrary. It's a nice little word there, arbitrary. Contracts are arbitrary. And that means they're under arbitration. So while you're alive, as a living flesh and blood man, if you have a foundational document that supersedes theirs, and we're going to talk about this later too, hearsay, assumptions, presumptions, implications, implied contracts, things like that. And so when your foundation is based on a spiritual foundation of a trust that's already established, then do you need to establish a trust? No, the trust is merely an expression. And that's why I'm going to talk about this PMA. The PMA is your foundation. And if your foundation itself is constructed in a trust, then your PMA itself expresses that trust and your position within that trust. And like I said, when you become of age and you're able to contract and fully, duly perform the agreements in the contract, that means you're the one that's establishing the agreements. You got to quit going to these lawyers. You got to quit going to these other people and realize who you are here so you can base your own foundation. So let's talk about this PMA real quick. First, everybody's probably seen it, and this is just my PMA. Notice it is not in loose leaf form like you would a court document. It's not like a letter form. This is book form. And we think about book. The etymology of book is your Bible. The word book comes from Bible. This here, even without saying Bible, God, or Jesus Christ, this expresses my Bible. This expresses my foundation. And so we're going to go over this cover real quick, and I'm going to show you. The elements of the earth is what I need to protect me. They are the covering. And they are in the form of earth, wind, water, and fire. I need to be able to observe these elements in their natural form and learn how to possess and use them. That is my position in this trust. If I want the safety of those elements that are given to myself in Mother Earth through the acceptance of His oath, of His trust, then I need to learn how to use those. Not money. Those. In so doing, I have to realize both the day and the night. And that in the day, I am one of a whole. That is not a zero. And that is the inclination of one. So when we came to our written symbolic language, even in numbers, they are skewed. That is not a zero. That is a whole. This is how you live in life as a natural being. You are one of the whole. The shadow is the person, and he operates as a shadow, like darkness. He is the darkness within you. If that darkness within you has the light of the one, then that shadow should come out as a reasonably decent person. And this is why I say you might be a nice guy, but you're a shitty person. Everything, this is the Christ in Eucharist. We're supposed to operate in the daytime through the shadow of our inner self. And if our inner self comes out as abusive and usive of our fellow man, then our inner self is abusive as well. We're not supposed to use our fellow man like that. We're supposed to be giving freely what was freely given. We're supposed to exchange with our fellow man. Then, of course, that's your two pillars. Your two pillars of all of your life are your day and your night, the two sides. That's all you should be concerned with. And this comes in the form of matriarch and patriarch. When God named Adam, he named them Adam. And then, from Adam, he created woman. So he did not create woman and name woman Adam. He created man and named them Adam. And that encompassed both the man and the woman. The woman's always supposed to go to the father no matter what realm they're in. It's the father that upholds the house. The mother protects what's inside the house and gives the gracious and tenderness, the love, the affection, the learning, the education to abide by the father. Wait till your father gets home. If you ain't going to listen to me, you'll listen to your father, because even I listen to my father. And that's why we're supposed to be teaching our family our Father's word as men. That's our duty in this trust. Then we see between those two pillars, we have the helmet. This is a helmet of salvation in regards to myself. This represents the crowning achievements throughout life. And we can look those up later. I'm not going to explain them today, but those are spoken of in biblical terms as crowning achievements. There's 5 of them, represented by a 5-pointed crown. You'll notice this here is on the right-hand side. This is the Father, the Son, and this is the Holy Ghost. In the daytime, when I'm operating as the Holy Ghost, I have to remember I am the person. And when I become a full man and realization of my heavenly treasures are succeeded, I will move to the right hand and be with the throne of Jesus Christ and our Father in heaven. In the meantime, the shield is the first recognition of myself. And we'll talk about this in the SS5 here in a little bit. This is the first name. This is not a first and second name. This is not a first and middle name. This is the first name. Likewise with this. This is the last name. This is not a first last name, and this is not a second last name. Technically, that's the arrangement they came in just like this. I was first named Keith with a second characteristic of Orland. This, I first have a birthright in legacy of Conrady. I was given up for adoption, abandoned, however you want to call it, in accordance with whatever system you want to use, whether it be spiritual or commercial. I no longer was given. That right was taken away as I was adopted under the name Little. Under the name Little, I spent many years, I assure you, trying to realize this family again. And what I want to explain to you guys is that family has nothing to do with my sisters and my brothers. Has nothing to do with my nieces and nephews. Has nothing to do with my mom. Has nothing to do with my dad. It has everything to do with me, myself, I, and all of them. Regardless of how intimately I know them, I know the legacy extends from one point, and it doesn't stop here, and that it extends to another point. And that's what I shield myself with. I don't shield myself with the now time commercial system operating on a past action or a future tense performance because of an assumption of the court. And we'll get to that as well. So anyway, we have the natural essence, the natural expression in the symbolic language that is commonly used. You ask any Amish, you ask any English major, that is a correct construction. And is done with the Alpha, the Omega, and my foundation is the cross that I bear of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost within the Alpha and the Omega that I use to shield with myself, which is in your name, Adam, Jesus Christ, our Father which art in heaven. However you want to express it, antecedent to this one, or any legal name. See, I don't even have to use this name. I can change my name. And I can do that at a whim. That's my choice. No one else's. When it comes to the legal system, they have a choice to change that name if they want. But they can't then turn around and tell me that applies to me, and vice versa. If I want to change my name, it applies in a certain manner, and you cannot use it to apply it to your system. It has not been established appropriately just by your assumption. So when an officer wants to ask me for identification, if I wish to tell him, you may call me El-Hotep II Peril, if he asserts that he needs to call me any other way, then I ask him for his authority. Because I have reason to believe that none of their records will establish the truth. Because when I was adopted, they omitted a certain truth that can and must be ascertained in order for this record to reflect accurately. My record reflects accurately. Theirs is the one that doesn't. If you have any issue with my record reflecting accurately, I suggest you consult your own authorities, because even they will tell you where they got it. They didn't get it until after I came into existence. And when I came into existence, I was known as Keith Orland of the family Conrady. It was only through an assumption of the court that even that legality got changed. And when they did so, they tried to omit my birthright. That is absolute. You cannot do that. I have the providence. This is my foundation. Providence stands for intercedence. I don't have to secede anywhere. I don't have to secede from your union. I don't have to secede from your organization. I don't have to secede from your corporation, religion, political body, or anything. I already have the providence, the intercedence of grace, favor. I already have the providence of grace, which is the intercedence of his favor, because that's whose oath I accept. I do not accept your oath. To me, I have reason to believe that it is bullshit. So that's the explanation of my cover. If you look at my PMA, the inside cover goes, though the power may go out, his light shall shine forevermore. Then on the next page, it speaks of a full armor of God, a reconveyance, a resubmission of what I just said here. One time I've said it. Full armor of God, if you read that, when ye pray, say, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth, or as in heaven, so in earth. This is the as above, so below. Give us day by day our daily bread. And forgive us our sins, for we also forgive everyone that is indebted to us. This is called settlement and closure for discharge of all future performances. All is forgiven on both sides. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Absolute. It's called absolution. You have absolution merely by believing. And I have reason to believe. I have absolution through the full armor of God on the foundation of His providence and grace, being the Alpha, the Omega, protecting my cross that I bear under the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, as Keith Orland of Conrady Little, having achieved the 5 points, knowing my place in the daytime and my person's place in shadows. For I have learned your message of earth, wind, water, and fire. I am all of that. The light inside of me is the fire. It is the knowledge that lights a little spark in someone else. And they say, God, I can do that too. Or that seems so simple. I should try it. So when we think about all these people trying to teach you how to do these offsets and everything, we have to remember the offset can't be based on their foundation, because their foundation is circular and is going to keep going back to them, and they're going to keep rebutting it. They're going to eventually arrest you and throw you in jail for false use of financial instruments, all kinds of stuff. You have to clarify it is not a financial instrument. The fiat is your command, not their fiat currency. These are all very important terms to learn, people. And so then when we get to the next part, this is what I'm talking about, fiat, the command. What language are you listening to? Because their legal fiction is an assumption of the court, and that's what their entire legal fiat currency is residing on, is an assumption. So let's quit assuming things. Let's talk about this succinctly in my language. See, I don't speak your code. This is what your code looks like to me. It's all babble. So, let's clarify my English conversion. And you'll notice it says, absolutely now time security note. That's done with an epoch time converter. That's exactly when I made this note. Right there, that epoch time. This is a Universal Public Notice 1.1 from the man who was presumably born August 20th, or August 20th, or in the month of August. And this is the year 2020. And then it goes on to clarify, public notice to all people and peoples. The information contained in this book is absolute property of El-Hotep II Pharaoh. It's not mine. I use El-Hotep II Pharaoh, and you'll see that in here. You'll see El-Hotep II Pharaoh has granted me use of this property. Why? Because he's one of my persons. And guess who gave him the grant to issue the property? The rest of it explains the faith-based union, which is the private member association. It's the Keith Orland Little FBU, a private member association. Then it goes on to express my living will. And then it goes on to express a private member association and what it is. It's the agreement setup. If you wish to follow this agreement, it's a very simple agreement, and you sign it with witnesses, not a notary. This is a public or a private document. It's not a public instrument. You don't run out to a public notary and have them witness your signature. That violates the trust. This is private. And then it's got the Articles of Confederation, public notice, all of that. It's got a fee schedule at the back, and it says notice prior to the fee schedule is a notice to all officials, public servants, that each and every trespass against I, Keith, will activate my fee schedule attached. And then it's got the list of the fee schedule. And then it says instruments shall be made payable to Keith Orland Little and sent to, and then I'll have an address. The very last page. Notice the front page was in black. Very last page in red ink. Though the power may go out, his light shall shine forevermore. So, I said it once, I expressed the trust once. I expressed the trust a second time. And then I went on to express it the third time in detail. This is a trust. It's called a faith-based union as a private membership association, but in so doing, you've established the trust. Now all you have to do is establish the property of the estate. You've established the estate, the trust, how it's supposed to operate, what the authority is. When we're dealing with their trust, and we want to institute this as part of an agreement, I keep trying to tell everybody, you can't be suing these guys. You can't be giving them these notices and stuff like that that are threatening them. You have to take them to arbitration. You have to prove that you want a contract, that there is a valid contract already, but you want to amend that contract. So, let me get down here. Okay. You guys have heard me talk about private law and public law before. If you want to stick with public law, you're going to stick in their courts. If you're going to go to private law, you have to quit arguing with them in those courts. And you have to go into arbitration. You have to let them know that it's a matter of arbitration. It is an arbitrary matter. And this is what we're talking about. Everybody's seen those public laws. Public Law 7310 about Federal Reserve notes and the private use and this and that. Public Law 98-270, Year of the Bible, something like that. Those are public laws. Those are agreements with public entities with another public entity. Okay? Those are all legal fictions. That's why it's posted in the public. And when people ask for evidence of a win, they expect to see it written in case law. Case law is public. When we want to go to a private law, we have to go to the records of Congress. And the reason we go to Congress and the reason that we look at this private law in Congress is because within this private law, it's going to mention certain things, but it's not going to mention the agreements made between the parties that provided this public law. It's going to speak of them inherently, but it's not going to go into detail to tell you what those contract agreements were. This is a non-disclosure part of a private agreement. People can't provide that kind of proof. But we're going to read this. This is, God, I don't remember how many pages it is. It's not very many. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of detail in it. It just tells you about the parties. And they've got a lot of parties in here. These guys all have trusts set up. This one suit. These guys are the bankers. Or these guys are the beneficiaries on the private side. Then it gets down here, and these are the beneficiaries on the corporate side, the public side. Remember, I was just saying, forgive us our debts as we forgive those who are indebted to us. These guys have all been forgiven through arbitration, and these guys have all been forgiven through arbitration. I don't know what I just did there, but... And look, this is Volkswagen, GlaxoSmithKline, Transocean, British Petroleum, Union Bank of Switzerland, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, Barclays, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Credit Suisse, Royal Bank of Scotland, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan. See what's happening, folks? The public debt has been forgiven. So has the private debt. This is an arbitrary agreement to forgive and forget. Everything is only operated through instrumentalities and can no longer be taxed. Findings of Congress. The Congress finds that that the United States, by and through the Attorney General, entered into an agreement with the parties. Telling you, the Attorney General has to enter into an agreement with you. That's who your agreeing party is, folks. Quit playing around. The agreement is a valid and binding settlement agreement. No longer negotiable. It is settled between the parties in the United States that operates in the nature of release dismissal agreement. Release of the promissory note. Release the promissory note. Release it. When you get that certificate of live birth and you authenticate it, you're going to release it. How do you release it? You reconvey it to somebody else. You put it in the hands of somebody else. He that holds the legal title is the trustee and holds liability. That is why they forgive and forget. They are now the trustee, and they have to. Otherwise, they take on a liability. It prevents the debt from accruing. The agreement contained an alternative dispute resolution clause that provided for arbitration as the exclusive remedy for relief to the parties in the United States. What have I been saying? You provided for the arbitration as the exclusive remedy. Why is it the exclusive remedy? Because it can only happen exclusively in equity. Exclusively in equity. It excluded all else. The United States consented to the arbitration. Uh-oh. You mean they didn't make it mandatory? You mean somebody else showed their power and said you either consent? Sounds like somebody held the sword to the king's neck, doesn't it? Sounds like somebody held the sword to the king's neck and made that king write a private law. They held the sword to his neck by making a proper agreement in the proper forum, in the proper manner, so that the Congress could find them. Consented to the arbitration and the awards made thereunder for the equitable relief. Remember, I just said equitable remedy for relief to the parties. Now all of a sudden for equitable relief. That's why the exclusive remedy is equity of the parties and the United States are binding. This didn't say the Congress. This says the parties and the United States. Now you have a binding agreement with the corporate entity of Congress. Congress hereby expressly waives any defenses to the equitable relief awarded to the parties, beneficiaries, and corporate beneficiaries by the arbitrator. Guess what? Does that say Congress has now accepted and presumed the role of trustee? Think about that, people. Or are they the grantee? A trust shall not fail for want of trustee. The United States consented to the arbitration and the awards. Congress awarded it. They are the grantee in federal capacity. And that is the military, folks. And that is your international military enforcement between private and public right. The parties, beneficiaries, and their immediate family members, and the corporate beneficiaries, not their immediate family members, or the living people, just those corporate entities, are entitled to the relief established by the agreement, the awards, and the provisions of this act, notwithstanding any other law to the contrary, provided that Joey Brandon Kemp shall not be entitled to any relief or benefits established by the agreement, the awards, and this act. Don't know why that's there. I've still got some questions I'm going to be going over, but if you guys read this, we'll go back up here so you can get this. Just put in your search engine, Private Law 114-31, December 3rd, 2016, and this PDF should show up. Notice that's the GPO, Government Publishing Office, up here in their top right-hand corner. Authentic U.S. government. I don't know what that says. Legislation. But anyway, back to this PMA. I imagine that's kind of what these guys did. They started out with their own PMA, got together, like you saw. That wasn't just one beneficiary. That was a whole list of them. And these people are beneficiaries of a superior establishment in exclusive equity, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about going in with unclean hands. Speaking about their fiat currency, we're talking about going in with clean hands with our fiat command. Fiat is a command, and we get our commands somewhere else. Then your fiat currency gets its commands. It gets its commands from your legislated word, which is dependent upon the commands of him. Now, somewhere along the line, there's a miscommunication. So we're going to go into agreement to fix a certain document. Now, like I said earlier, in regards to the PMA and the trust, and a deed of reconveyance to the Department of Treasury. Mnuchin is who we send it to. The certificate of live birth, when it's authenticated, you have to do a notice of acknowledgement of receipt and acceptance. And so I've got one of those done up. A notice of interest, and this is an established right of pure equitable nature. This is a notice of interest. And this is notice of delivery, statement of interest. And these documents you have to, I'm not going to just hand these documents out, because you have to comprehend how they're used before you just go constructing them and then throwing them at them and expecting, like some people think, that the paperwork's going to do the work for them. It ain't going to happen that way. Like I said, I quit Commerce 4.5, almost 5 years ago now, and I've done nothing but research. And I haven't gone in the meantime. You've not heard me talk about going and throwing documents in their face. I've done some rejection letters. I've sent some stuff back in the mail. We've had no issues with that. But when it comes to addressing the trust and private estate and all that stuff, I haven't done any of that. The closest I've come to that is in my last trial. I entered in certain documents and a certificate of live birth that was not authenticated. And that was all entered into evidence. So there is evidence in, on, and for the record. And again, like I mentioned earlier, though, that was a certificate of live birth in the name of Keith Orland Little. They don't have anything in their system except from the original registrar that has a tie-in record, an attachment as a contract between the state and my mom and dad. It wasn't a contract between myself. And in so doing, when I turned 18 and they issued me a Social Security card in the name of Keith Orland Little, that too, as a legal fiction, is an assumption of the court. And I have the right to break that assumption. And so that's what I'm doing here. And that's the only thing you guys have to do as well, is break that assumption. I just have a better, more positive route of doing that because I can prove the adoption setup. You guys that are inherently still under that first birthright name, they want you to distinguish it clearly, and that's why I said my PMA is constructed under that original trust in biblical terms. It's not done in a commercial sense. That's why it doesn't have, when I make my stamp here, and this is just a cover, or just a reprint of my cover without the earth, wind, water, and fire, or the name, or the providence of grace. It's changed up a little. It's got a full red background, or border, and it says one whole unit. It's got an exemption account number, or a security number, a self-created security number, and then the contract number of the exemption account that is prepaid. And this will be downsized into stamp size so that we can start doing our own mailings with this. I've also created some other documents here, and I'll go over those here in a bit. But first I want to get back to that document that we've got to correct, and that's the Social Security 5, or SS5, the Social Security application. Now you'll notice on this one it says, and it's all capital letters, Social Security Administration, and then it says in upper lowercase, application for a Social Security card. When you're filling out an application, you have to think about, well, what are we applying it to? And then over here in the other corner, it's written small, but that is an OMB number, and that's going to be our first question. You'll notice this one's blank, because this is the document, one of the documents we want to correct. Because when we filled it out wrong. If it's got a valid and current OMB number, then we need to ask another question. It says name to be shown on card. We have to ask if this must be a state-created entity in regards to the legal fiction known as Keith Orland Little, which is the name that was previously put on the card, or is it by my intent on how I want to apply it? Can I use a pen name? Now, most likely, I don't know the answer to that. I haven't asked that yet. I will. But most likely it's going to be no, it has to be the legal name. The legal name. And again, we're going to run into this situation where these guys are the lowly contractors. They're going to say legal name without realizing what the legal name really is. And therefore, they're actually being inconsistent, because El Hotep II Wipero as a pen name is also a legal name. It is something the court can assume if I give them the opportunity to do so. So then it says the full name at birth, if other than above. So this is whether I use El Hotep II Wipero or not. When I fill this out, I put the name to be shown on the card. I can put it Keith Orland, and when we see first name, realize our first name is Keith Orland. It is not Keith and then full middle name is Orland. That's wrong. And they'll even tell you the middle name is not considered. So you should put the middle name, or what you've been indoctrinated into believing is the middle name, in here with the first name, because it's done with a hyphen, as I showed you on my PMA cover. It's done with a hyphen, and that means with. There is no separation. So that is your first name. It's Keith with Orland is the first name. There is no middle name. And the last name is actually the family name of where I herald from. So then it says full name at birth if other than above. And that would most certainly be Keith Orland Conrady. That alone, on this form, when I fill it out to get a new Social Security card, that alone will cause debate. It shows that there's an inconsistency. Because when I was 18, I don't think I put down Conrady. I'm not sure. If I did, then it would show a clear distinction that there are, in fact, two legal names. So my intent now, should I fill out a new application if my intent is to show the name on the card to be other than this name? What if I want the name on that card to be shown as Keith Orland Conrady? To be shown on the card. It doesn't say I have to put little. So shouldn't I also put Keith Orland Conrady there? These are questions that I have. I'm not required to put Keith Orland Little. That is still an assumption of the court. Social Security number previously assigned to the person. Here's where I have a serious question. Because under the age of 10, I don't know if I ever touched a Social Security card. I don't know if I ever had a need to know the Social Security number. If I did, I don't believe I was competent to contract. And being that the agreement made before the court was in fact contractual between my mom and dad, or adoptive mom and dad, and the state, I don't care if you are loco parentis. I don't care if you are parent. I don't care if you're biological parent. I don't care if you're adoptive parent. I have here an inherent right to even go further antecedent to that. Let's go tack to your mom and dad. How about your mom and dad's mom and dads? How about your mom and dad's moms and dads and moms and dads? Huh? You want to talk about the final word? Let's talk about in the beginning was word. Because that's where the legacy actually comes from. So when I go through to fix this, there are going to be a lot of questions. And like I've explained in my other video on correcting the SS5, there's going to have to be an affidavit, a sworn affidavit put in there. Sworn declarations under penalty of perjury. Whatever you want to call it. I don't care what they want to call it. It'll be my statement, affirmation, fiat, already affirmed. Place of birth, citizenship, ethnicity, none of that required. Parents, mother's name at birth, none of that required. I don't truly know their name, because even to me that was hearsay. At 10 years old, I know I remember calling Dad, Dad, and Mom, Mom. And I had a lot of different moms and dads in all those different foster homes. And you want me to now name some kind of a legal name for you? I don't think I can do that. I know one dad was named Kenneth. One mom was named Mary. I know another mom was named Gloria. Another dad was named Albert. So anyway, when we fix that and we get that certificate of live birth authenticated, as I was talking about with these are basically like your notice of separation, notice of foreign status, things like that. It's a special notice of deed of conveyance. And what we're going to do is, now that we've shown notice of acknowledgement of receipt and acceptance, we're going to give that receipt back. And this is our notice of interest in that receipt. This is notice of delivery of that receipt. And this is special notice of deed of conveyance, so that you are now assigned as trustee of that receipt. And all future commercial transactions are taken care of not through the minor account, but through the transaction account with zero balance maintained daily, so that no debt is any further incurred, no further accrued, no further tax. You are paid justly already through the Federal Reserve System to do so. Do it. And so it's important to have your other documents available for that birth certificate, so that when you get ready to do that, and people like to assert that the UCC, SPC, and all that is involved in it. No, you do not have to. Once you do this and you make that private law, none of their lower laws, public laws, anything can interfere with that. That's a violation of 18 U.S.C. What is it? 1581, interference with commerce through threats, duress, and coercion, or misrepresentation. 15 U.S.C. 1692. All kinds of things, and that'll get them in big trouble. So, because they always have to go to the top dog, and when you name the top dog, Minuchin, as the trustee, they all have to follow accordingly through their agents and agencies, through those, like I said earlier, the foreign trade zones. They're all granted that foreign trade zone from one place, and that's the United States Treasury, or connected very closely there with Department of Justice or whatever. All kinds of them. Even your census. Your census is tied directly to the Department of Commerce. So think about that. So the next thing about my PMA, as I showed you the first initial thing, I'm establishing a stamp to use with it. And I've made an offer to have people join the PMA, and it's not an expense towards the PMA when I ask for a donation. I am asking for $100. I put my time and effort over the last 4 years to do this. But again, I'm going to give this information out for free because I've already done so. The thing is, when I give you a packet with this PMA packet, I'm willing to spend private Zoom times to help you go over and review, research, and help you educate yourself in accordance to your own use. So when I send out a PMA packet, it's going to have a different cover. It's going to have what I call a generic cover, which is what I actually designed mine on. You can see the helmet there is the same thing in the shield. But I used some other things in regards to the top and the bottom. These are significant as pillars, one on each side. I just actually drew 2 pillars, made it simple. And it all has to do with how you take in your own symbology according to your own spirit and nature. But along with that PMA in book form, I'll also be sending not that one, but this one here is a providence of grace, patent hold, aka public notice. And when I say providence of grace, again, I'm mentioning that front cover, the intercedence of favor, and it says, "Yours, O Lord, is the greatest, and the power, and the glory, and the victory, and the majesty. Indeed, everything that is in the heavens and the earth, yours is the dominion, O Lord, and you exalt yourself as head over all." And it's basically just some verses reiterating the authority of his providence and grace. And the very last one is the King James Dictionary definition of physician. Because that is one of the main problems that we have in life, is that somebody has a community care concern. Because you're not educating your children right, or they seem to look filthy, or they're not being paid attention to properly. They look dirty and neglected. They like to use all kinds of definitions to insert some kind of medical intervention. But again, this is providence of grace. We already have the intercedence of his favor. And so it says, physician, a person skilled in the art, our Father which art in heaven, of healing. One whose profession is to prescribe remedies for diseases. In a spiritual sense, one that heals moral diseases as a physician of the soul. Now this is very important when we come to one of our other documents here. But before we get to that, remember I was talking about that. I don't care what my mom and dad say, because that's their marriage license. I don't care about the local parentis. This is dedicated to our Father which art in heaven. It's a memorandum entry. It has nothing to do with marriage or anything but the communion, with the absolute communion of the house of, abiding under. And it just simply has, in red ink with 2 red lines, for the husband to sign and the wife to sign. And then it says specifically, abiding under our Father which art in heaven, and accept to have and to hold the other in love, prosperity, and abundance in his oath. With acceptance of his oath, this communion shall meet with no lawful impediment, whether it be legal process, administrative process, medical process, or otherwise, as what is done is that which ought be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. And this communion too shall have full capacity to prosecute for the just rights against non-consensual violations and equal sovereignty of any and all real and personal effects and titles thereof. And that's just a simple thing that you and your woman can sign, and you are consummated in faith. And that's all it takes. That is all it takes. I beg you people, start rescinding these marriage licenses, these marriage certificates. They are false and fraudulent. They merely create another legal entity. The next one, and I've actually developed a couple of them, is in regards to a birth certificate, and it says, or actually no, the next one is memorandum of innocent sojourn, and this is just a kind of like a diplomatic travel document, in where we refer to Matthew 22 verse 37. Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." That's your covenant with your Father in heaven. "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctify thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." We are supposed to sing unto the nations. That means we are supposed to go forth and traverse, sojourn in his word. "The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me." So when we travel, when we sojourn, We are supposed to do so with him. That's why we carry his providence and grace with us at all times. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. He gives no political boundaries. He gives no religious boundaries. He gives no longitude, latitude, no commercial borders, no national borders, no country borders, no state borders, no municipal borders, no county borders. He gives no borders. Galatians 5 verse 14, for all the law is fulfilled in one word. Even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. How can I meet my neighbors if I don't go sojourn to them? If I go on a sojourn to meet my neighbor, am I not told to freely give what was freely given? That I'm supposed to share the prosperity of abundance, so that if I travel to my neighbor and I have an abundance, I should think of my neighbor and offer him. Even though he may not need it, maybe he already has an abundance. Maybe he then would be willing to give me something in return, that he has an abundance that I don't have. Is this not free trade? So the next document, and actually I've got them, as you can see, they look like certificates. Some of them look like certificates. That sojourn, that looks like a certificate. The communion, that looks like a certificate. Can't see it very well with light. But the first one is just a statement. And then we're going to get to the last one. You're going to like the last ones, I'm sure. Because I think this is going to be an important part of anybody's PMA to help people learn how to restrict their family. And I don't mean restrict by closing yourself in, but realizing who your family members are and who you should have faith in. And so the last one's going to be interesting, help you build faith in each other, I hope. But this one here is Memorandum of Legacy Absolute. This is the rebuttal to their birth certificate. When we think of memorandum, we think about a memorial. And when you think about a memorial, what I want you to think about is the register in a family Bible where they log down the memorial of deaths, communions, baptisms, births, marriages, all of it. And that's basically like what I said. You're going to create your own Bible. You're going to standardize it on your spiritual beliefs. And then these documents are going to be in your register. You are going to be the keeper of records. That's what registrar is. He is a keeper of records. So it's not that you're registering them with anybody else. You're the keeper of the records. And they're going to go in your register. You're the registrar. But anyway, this one too mentions Jeremiah 1 verse 5, King James Version. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. This is very important. In that conveyance of that birth certificate, what they're doing is they're saying that you're no longer a prophet unto the nations, but you're a commercial entity going forth, operating in a fiat currency system to put forth the word of the legislation of all these different commercial contracts. You got to quit that. We, the house of, and then whatever house it is, within the kingdom of heaven, herald. Hark the herald angels sing. Herald means to sing. Paul Revere heralded out in the middle of the night, the British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming. And that's what it means. Sing out. Speak out. Within the kingdom of heaven, herald a memorial to the light eternal legacy of his will. Our Father, which art in heaven, having cast unto us this such and such day of such and such month in the year of our Lord such and such, an heir or heiress. It's either going to be heir or heiress or whatever you. I left it a blank specifically for heir or heiress. I think those are the correct terms to use. But you could use legacy or anything else you can come up with. I would stay away from their commercial terms of children, parents, anything like that. Sibling, sister, daughter, son. You could say son or daughter. That would be the closest, I would think. Otherwise, a son or daughter, heir, heiress, to the legacy of free, unmerited, and unmutable love of God. Herald our acceptance of thine gracious oath, that we will shew thine wisdom in this legacy to replenish thine armor for man, and we shall herald this legacy in thy name, which shall be inspired as. And that would be the first part of the first name. And say it's John. And so, which shall be inspired as John. And John shall have a character of the Holy Spirit of thine divine love. And we shall herald this legacy in the name of Christ in Eucharist, which shall be inspired as Anthony. So that would be your fatherly name and your name in Christ in Eucharist. And then it says, through Christ in Eucharist, we hear and sing thy name. As it is written, so shall it be done. Deed in good faith, given with patent herald command. Romans 13:10, King James Version. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. It requires nothing else to fulfill a law. Their law requires certain things, then you have to point out that it's not a law, it is a contractual agreement which is arbitrary. And then it has a spot on the bottom, and this is what I want you guys to pay attention to. It says Amen, and then calling in Trinity. You don't have mom and dad, you have the husband and wife, referencing to the prior document or the prior certificate. Husband and wife. Okay? So they are the grantor of this document now. Or certificate, however you want to look at it. I call it document. So they are the ones that grant this document. And then they have a neighbor as a third-party witness. And then remember we spoke about the physician. Remember we spoke about the physician? That was the providence of grace. That was at the bottom of the providence of grace. When you go to the hospital, if you're going to have your baby in the hospital, you give them one of this so they know that they are operating in their capacity as a physician. That is their contract. Physicians uphold the Hippocratic Oath. They cannot charge you. It's in their own oath. I posted that as well. So, in that, we have the red ink. Then theirs is in blue. They can't sign in their red ink signature. They have to sign in their blue. They are in a public venue. They are a public trustee. So whether they want to sign in they can sign in red, but that is in blue, indicative of a contract situation. And then that bottom part says, print of soul, heralding the full armor of God, absolute. And you notice on the right-hand side, it has a place to print both of those two little souls in red ink, or the actual red blood. And that was already on there. Boom. Now you've created your own document that will supersede anything they create. Now if you want to wipe that baby's feet off and let them print them on their birth certificate, you can do that. But you have to make sure that they realize that they have to do it under an agreement with this. It's an arbitration. It's arbitrary. They have to follow the command. As it is written, so shall it be. You have to make sure they realize they are in arbitration. They cannot escape that. And they are in arbitration because they cannot give commands. The command is already given. All they can do is demand. Okay. Now the last one. These are interesting because, like I said, I think it's important that when we try to learn about this family structure and how it operates, like I said earlier, wait till your father gets home. You know, when mom's trying to discipline the kids and she can't really discipline them and they won't listen to her. By God, they better start listening to her, because it's even said in the Bible, the man needs to put a whooping on his child. The man needs to put that fear in his child. Because you just wait till your daddy gets home. Your daddy in natural instinct will put you out of that house. Or whatever needs to be done. But it's important that we learn how to do this in love and charity and free giving back and forth. And so we should really institute those coupons ourselves. And this one here is just a light little coupon. And I just suggest they all should be light. You can be creative and make ones up for your children too for doing good schoolwork. You know, if you're homeschooling them and you want to give them good grades, you don't give them A's, B's, and C's. You give them a coupon. But it says, with consideration and benefit of my armor for the one that makes myself whole, I give thee one free full car wash with armor. And that, of course, is capitalized with parentheses or quote marks around it, specifying the store shelf armor. Kind of comedy there. And tenderness. Redeem upon presentment to the one that makes thee whole. And then, of course, I've got a counter coupon for her with consideration. And it says again, coupon in armor with consideration and benefit of my armor for the one that makes myself whole. Again, it's just reiterating. You're just changing a couple of the terms in there. It's the same coupon, and you're giving exchange through exchanging the terms. It's what you're going to do when you make these agreements in arbitration. You're going to exchange the terms. So it says, with consideration and benefit of my armor, for the one that makes myself whole, I give thee one free full back rub with lotion and tenderness. And again, redeem upon presentment to the one that makes thee whole. And I just thought those are cute. Those are things, those are important concepts to help us realize how we're supposed to deal with our neighbor. If we can deal with our neighbor the same way we would deal with our husband and wife, this world would be tremendous. I mean, it would be astounding. So remember, when we get to establishing our PMA, if it's constructed properly, it is the trust. It's the expression of your estate, your trust, and how you associate. And that's all you need to do. If you're not materially wealthy, they can't deny you that trust. Who is to say that you have to have a physical body of trust, of material possessions, in order to create a trust? That's nonsense. The trust is already established. You just have to learn how to associate it, so then you can start prospering with the abundance that we're supposed to, so then we can grant freely to our neighbors like we grant freely to our wives and husbands. This is the true process. So when we get to that birth certificate and we provide those instruments, what we're doing is providing coupons. Basically, we're providing coupons. This is a series of coupons of which establish an agreement that we live in communion in peace, in love, prosperity, abundance, so that neither side suffers debt. See, when you realize that by doing this, nobody can place a claim of debt against the United States either, that means the debt no longer, you're relieving yourself of that increase in the United States debt. The more people that do this accordingly, it more so alleviates the debt of the United States. The more it does that, the more people realize how it affects that debt, the more people are going to climb on board and say, okay. Now again, and you don't have to do this through the acceptance of the certificate of live birth either. You could actually establish yourself some trust assets and make an agreement there through an escrow agreement there, because that's basically all this stuff is. It's an escrow agreement. You're going to give these people, these arbitrators, certain property instruments, documentation, and they're going to go over it and they're going to say, well, this supersedes this, and this supersedes this, and this, well, this guy by right has more inherent interest in property rights to do it, so his claim here is valid, whereas yours, he's willing to forgive you your trespass, man. You did this, and this to him. My God. So you got to think about that and realize those are just the things you got to point out, and you just got to do it in peace. Like I said, when it comes to myself asserting the ability, oops, I lost my little, oh no, there it is, okay. When you realize your ability to negotiate your own contracts because you actually know what the contract is, then maybe you can learn more. But it really is that simple. It really is that simple. When you hand these documents over to somebody in court, you're not handing them to a private arbitrator. You're handing them to somebody that's going to use them against you. Anything you say can and will be used against you. When you hand them to a private arbitrator, they can't use them against you. They have to point out the operation of law that you are sticking to, if that's what you're doing. That's why I say you got to come with clean hands. And that means no commercial interest. If you have no commercial interest, then let's just settle the accounts to full closure and everybody's forgiven. All obligations are to perform a discharge. But from now on, when I enter an instrument into your monopolized system, we have an agreement that I'm able to authorize that monetary instrument for equal rights of possession and use, just like anybody else. But I have the right to do it through this transaction process. Because when we do this SS5 form, what we're doing is we're creating a legal entity. And so when we put down, say, citizenship, if we put down U.S. citizen, we're creating an actual 14th Amendment citizen. If we create a legal alien allowed to work, we're creating a legal alien. A legal alien. If we're creating a legal alien not allowed to work, well, what are the confines then? Because it says legal alien allowed to work. Work where? Does he have a right to come to my house and work here? Damn right he does. And so we have to think about the legal entities that we're creating, and we have to come to an arbitrary agreement of exactly how it's supposed to operate. In the meantime, all these people that are throwing that legal entity around in all these different forms, I've got transcripts down here with 4 different legal names, all professing to be myself. 4 different styles. Sorry, it cannot possibly be. And those are legal entities created by somebody else, because that is not what I put down on that Social Security application. I never put Keith Orland Little in all capital names or all capital letters. Never. Never. And I do believe that when I first filled it out at 18, I do believe I put Little and Conrady. I do believe I was honest about that. So we'll have fun with that one. Bring that forward. That kind of helps institute the fact that the Johnson County in Iowa has the correct birth certificate or statement of live birth or originating document or book of life that says Baby Boy Conrady or Keith Orland Conrady. So let's go back antecedent to all this little bullshit, and let's get back to a real true agreement in regards to Keith Orland Conrady, because that's who I wish to use now. Since Mom and Dad told me I'm a lunatic and I need to change my last name, let's make it clear in and on for the record, my last name was never changed. That was just an assumption of the court. So anyway, folks, when I get done here, I am going to post my other forum links, my other platforms and stuff. I'm also going to put my PayPal link. I could use some help again, most certainly. So I'm going to paste my PayPal link, and if anybody wants to hit that link and share some love, I'd certainly appreciate it. But it's not required. If you don't hit it, at least hit the other forums, check out the information, and at least share it. Share the information and share the videos. All this stuff needs to get out so people can start learning how to comprehend it according to their own situations. Some people don't have children yet, so they can do a lot of this work prior to prevent having to place them in the public education, having to have birth certificate to begin with, all these different things. And it's not just a matter of learning yourself. Like I keep telling everybody, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. I don't need to learn anymore myself. I've learned enough that all I got to do is ask any question that I have. And I have so many questions now from all that I've learned that I question everything. Somebody got on earlier today with a picture and it showed a couple hands or something, and I took it that the artistry at the knuckles was some kind of symbols. In fact, it was just the artistry of the wrinkles in the knuckle. I thought they meant symbols. So I questioned everything. And this is an important factor. So please remember to start questioning everything and realize these people on the low levels that are contracting don't know how to contract in the right manner themselves. And that's what got us caught in the same situation. We're not contracting with the right people. We have to go to the top dogs and say, listen, we understand all these other quasi-contracts through the state and the foreign trade zones and the IRS and the Federal Reserve and da-da-da-da. And we need to come to a final agreement, a final settlement. This is no longer going to be negotiable from incident to incident. It's going to be a set statement on the record so that all incidents from here on out operate in this particular process so that it already covers the liability of all parties. So that parties are not subject to the torts that are going on inherently because everybody wants to operate on those lower levels. And that's exactly what's happening. You go to you move into a nice new house and your neighbors tell you the school down here is great school, but they send their kids to a different community because it's even better. And what if you taught them to homeschool? Well, the problem is people don't pick up on it much because most people don't do homeschool. Whereas if you're homeschooling, most people won't pick up on it much because they're already indoctrinated into the public schools. And they think, no way can you teach your children better than these college-educated teachers. Excuse me? These college-educated teachers are indoctrinated as well. They're subscribing to a set standard of curriculum. Their guideline to say, well, no child held back. While at the same time, that program that says hold no child back is holding back all the children that should be homeschooled. and show this public education system that they have no right to place any kind of physical, mental, or medical restraints upon the education that we as mom and dads, as husbands and wives, have an inherent right to teach from the proper source. So anyway, like I said, I do have that basic packet of PMA that I'm willing to, like I said, I'm asking for a $100 donation. It's not set. That is under negotiation. And like I said, I still put this information out as well. So you can still have access to the information. But if you help me out with a donation, I'm going to send you this. I'm going to send you a packet here along with it. And you have ability to contact me with any questions you want. I will work through this with you so you can establish your own PMA. In the meantime, it makes you a member of my PMA. I would be able to technically go into court and operate as another member of your PMA. So any donation, it's just to help me help you. And of course, obviously, like anybody else, the more you donate, the more I'm willing to spend time on helping you educate. Otherwise, I've already posted all of this information on my page. Here, I've consolidated it. So people that want to ask me questions about this or that on a random, I'm still answering. But realize I have to go through a lot of my information sometimes for some of the specific questions to answer them in the way they were asked. Or rebut the question and try to get you to ask them a different way. Because like I said, this is about all you ever need. This should be about all you ever need anymore. You know? When we start dealing with their documentations and having to correct their record, you'll end up with a thick stack because they're going to keep trying to enforce a travel restriction on you by saying, no, those private property placards don't work around here. Oh yeah? Are you a part of the public trust? Do you not get your own imports and exports through a foreign trade zone under the United States federal government, operating as a transmitting utility for the residents? Can you explain how me, being born on Iowa in Dubuque, am somehow a resident of Mississippi? I don't believe Mississippi has any marketable title to the legal fiction that was made an assumption upon the court. I would beg you to call up the county registrar who created the legal fiction and ask them if you have jurisdiction. That would settle the matter clearly. So think about it, people. This may be all you need for now to get yourself started, but you're going to end up with a whole lot more. You're going to need to keep track, and like I said, you're going to be your own registrar. You're going to keep track of your own records. You're going to be the keeper of records. I am the keeper of records for her, and she is the keeper of records for myself. This PMA can be a keeper of records for you. All these, when we do these private Zooms, when I do a private Zoom with somebody going over this PMA material, answering their questions, it's logged in as a private PMA meeting, and it's got a number on it. It gets logged into my computer, and it's part of this PMA. So anytime later on you want a copy of it, boom, here you go. You've got a copy of that same conversation. Say somebody wants to try to make a claim against me in the PMA. I got all the information. So do they. So if somebody else outside wants to make a claim against their PMA, all you got to do, like I said, come to me for that recording, explaining it. So think about this stuff, people, and remember, I'm going to post those other forum links. Please hit that PayPal link and help me out. I could really use it. It does take a lot to print this stuff up. I've already run out of ink. I've already used a full packet of paper. And it just doesn't seem to be enough sometimes. But again, like I said, I'm going to keep doing it regardless. I'm going to keep putting this information out there. In the meantime, remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. I love you all. Sorry it was so long today, but hopefully you'll review this. It's got a lot of information in there. And again, get a hold of me and ask me some questions. If you have any questions, I'm always open to answer them. Always willing to help. Freely giving. So, meantime, God bless. Have a good day. And in honor of our Mother Earth, who provides so welcomely, I thank Him for the holy sacraments, just like I thank Him for you.